In a previous episode, I referred to or compared trail running to jazz music, fixed timed events, tracks, roads, more like classical music. And that's because, trails are just like jazz. It's a live performance, and then it can't really be replicated, and then it's gone. Classical music, we're still playing Beethoven and Bach and Mozart. You can replicate it. So, you can't replicate, Western states from year to year. The conditions change. In 100 years, it may all be condos. But if you want to go after Kouros' record like Kilian did, it's a 303 kilometers. Go find yourself a track, get some timing, and you can still do it. Can't do that with trails. Even in shorter races, it's kind of like comparing cross country to track. Though I am a big fan of cross country, it's interesting. Trail running really didn't get going until the late 80s after mountain biking and stuff. So, anyways, talking about that, and probably one of my most viewed videos, and thank you guys, was my one about how I had predicted that I thought Kilian would go farther than he ended up stopping so short in his quest. He went to 83 miles, 10 hours. I thought he'd do a fast 100 and then be done. It was interesting that quite a few people were defending Kilian, and I was like, hey, he's a great athlete. And that got me to start thinking about some of his stuff. And, I've never really watched a whole lot of his stuff because, like I said, I'm not that interested in trail running. I'd much rather watch somebody break the 10K world record. They've been around for 15 years, like the Ugandan did, or the Ethiopian lady breaking the 5K. That's just more interesting to me. So, but then I thought, I'm going to start watching some of the Kilian's videos and stuff. And I saw this, I think it's called Path to Everest. And I remember hearing about him supposedly doing an FKT up Everest. And then I guess it turns out his time isn't even actually the fastest. But I also remember quite a bit of controversy that did he actually make the summit? And so this movie, it's obviously made with his permission and he's starring in it. It's not bad. It's on Amazon, I think. But when you're watching it and he's doing the Everest thing, and on one of the attempts he gets up to 400 meters or so from the top, and he's sitting there and it's late afternoon, and he's saying, if I keep going, I'm going to get to the summit at night. That would be dangerous. I'm going to turn around. And he did turn around. And I've had the same thing. I went up to my Everest, Mount Whitney. The first year I went up, I was completely unprepared, didn't know what I was doing. I was 280 pounds. I made it to 13,000 feet and turned around because it got to be late afternoon. Second year I went up, I got in better shape, but I went it all the way up the trail's crest, but I had like about a half mile to go, and it was 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And like Kilian, I looked at it, I went, it's not going to be safe. I need to turn around. And I turned around, and it was difficult. So I understood what he did. So, then what happened was, then a little bit later, supposedly he went up there and went up and summited twice. And I'm watching the movie. I haven't saw a lot of background, but it was really odd in that, he's at the summit and he, it's pitch black. You can't see shit. He's talking. Ends up he doesn't have any Garmin data at all. It's people in the back here. He doesn't have any Garmin GPS stuff. He doesn't have photography. And you're like, well, it's nighttime, but I read later, he hasn't got a GoPro. They work in the dark. He's got a headlamp because he obviously had to climb down in the dark. And I guess the second time he actually went off to the north face and nearly fell off. And so you're thinking, like, why don't you just light it up so we can see, all the stuff up there, all the flags and mementos, to prove that, hey, you're at the summit, if your Garmin or GPS isn't working. And so it was very odd. And also you're kind of thinking, like, hey, if you went to the summit and you're by yourself, maybe leave something there, leave a photo, leave a memento. So that was kind of really odd and confusing. And then when he came down, he was really out of it, at least on one of the ones they showed, where I guess he'd had some stomach issues and, being up there, the exertion of the, really long day, the altitude and all that. I get that part too. And so it was really strange that, and that kind of got me to thinking about my own experience. I've done half a dozen 6-day races, a couple 72s, half a dozen 48s, and many, a dozen or more 24 hours. And I've seen people with sleep deprivation and, you have the hallucinations, the foggy brain and all that kind of stuff. I've crewed and paced the Tahoe 200 and Badwater. I've seen firsthand, staying up all night and the exertion, or multiple nights. And so I could totally get that he was kind of out of it. And so, and I myself never really had that. I've been well known for being able to just walk and walk forever. But one year at Across the Years, it was my 4th year, I needed to get to 312 miles to get my 1,000-mile jacket. And so I was pushing myself. And then maybe 4th or 5th night, it was super cold. I went and lay down inside in my Prius, which I'm standing beside right now. I'm waiting around trying to get some Grubhub orders. It's been kind of dead. I went into the car and I tried to get in there, and Across the Years is freezing cold, kind of like Norway when they were doing that 24. So I've experienced with the cold weather. And I got in there, and next thing I knew, I woke up and I'm shivering. Somehow I lost a sock, and I'm just kind of out of it. And I'm trying to get out of the car, and the car won't let me get out. And I think I'm in a dream, and I'm just freaking out. And I'm like, wake up, wake up. And then, like, in my dream, I'm like, I get the car, and I actually drive down like 100, 200 yards down the road. There's the aid station, because it's a 1-mile loop. And I'm thinking, well, if I go down to the back of the parking lot, maybe I can get some help. And I'm seriously think I'm in a dream. And so I'm in the aid station just kind of freaking out. And I'm trying to like, wake up, wake up. And then all of a sudden, I hear this jingle, 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 and this large man in a jester outfit. And then I knew I was in a dream, because I know a large guy in a jester outfit. This is my friend Ed Eddinghaus, the jester. And I remember just running up to him and like hugging him, going, dude, I thought I was in some nightmare. I'm so glad to see you. Please, please stay with me. And so I definitely had a total freak out. Didn't know what the heck was going on. And so I think that's kind of what happened with Kilian, is that he got up there and he may have thought he was at the summit, shot the video and really thought he was there and just wasn't there. And then maybe when he finally came down, because when he came down, he was a mess. I remember when he got to Advanced Base Camp, they're talking to him. I mean, he just looked wiped. He looked kind of out of it. And, it may have like really thought, yeah, I got there. And then maybe once he sat down for a while and realized what had gone on, but then, by then it's way too late. Everything's been pushed out into the media and the summit, and then later on, he's never really come straight out yay or nay, and then says stuff like, well, it's not about the summit. And, what he did there was an amazing accomplishment. But I really think that the effort and all that happened may be part of the mystery. We'll never know, of course, did he or didn't he? I know there's people out there who say no, and then of course he's got his fanboys who he can do no wrong. So kind of my take on it. And as always, stay healthy, be boring, not epic.